What's going on, everybody? I've had a couple of requests on my Prop Warrior to do a kind of a talent breakdown and stuff real quick. So I'm not going to make this video extremely long because your time is valuable. Alright, you don't want to sit there and watch me for 20 minutes spew out bull crap. So we're going to go straight into it. Let's go straight into the talents. The talents are pretty set. There's a few things that you can change around. So let's go to the warrior talents here. This is where you have some maneuverability here. If you want to do more of a assisted, especially against melee, you can talent it to intervene. I do not. These talents here are pretty standard. Stormbolt. If you need to, you can take out the improved leap, bounding stride, and if you're playing like against a paladin, you can put it in the shattering throw. Typically I don't, and here's the reason why. Because a lot of paladins, they'll pop their bubbles so they can get their burst out. Well, if they're already bursting, I'm going to switch in a defensive stance and get away from them anyway. So I found more cases to not that they don't use it when they're about to die, where that shattering throw would come in handy. However, the improved bounding strike does come in handy. There's only one real. I used to run this spear and crit build, but since they really nerfed the crit stuff, you really are forced to play the bleed build, which is not too bad. It's not horrible. You're going to want to go ahead and get Shockwave for that extra stun. Of course, Dragon's Roar, Avatar, and Unstoppable Force. Now, I was not a huge fan of Unstoppable Force because I did not hit Thunderstrike all the time. I did immovable objects, which helped me out more on the damage side. But since they nerfed all that crit, you're forced to play Unstoppable Force, which is a Thunderclap build pretty much. So, I mean, like I said, there's a few things that you can take out. If you need to get rid of Shockwave and get Berserker Ring, which you can, or if you need to get Shattering Throw and then keep your Shockwave, you can. It just kind of depends on if you're fighting a lot of melee or caster. Now, since this is a huge caster meta, you're going to want maneuverability, because one thing warriors don't do good against, or do well against, and that's caster metas. Alright, so let's go to the protection talent tree. Everything's pretty standard here. You definitely want to get your fueled by violence, your bloodborne, because that's going to be your damage, your bleed, your thunder strikes, your dragon roar, all that. I still run a shield charge with battering ram and Champions Bullrod because it still does do pretty good damage. So there's a few talents that you can move around. You can take one out of here and get Bolster, or get Defender's Aegis, which gets you another shield wall. But everything's pretty standard here. You're going to want to do Show of Force. Again, I used to roll Sudden Death. The crits got nerfed, so prop warriors aren't critting high. So with Show of Force, and you're already playing a Thunderclap build, it's going to come in handy way more. And you're definitely going to want to do Into the Fray for your haste benefit. So let's move on to PvP talents. PvP talents, I switch these up depending on what match. I always have Morale Killer. No matter what, Morale Killer's always there. The two that I go around and change is Oppressor. I'll get Thunderstruck, which roots all your targets. And then I'll get rid of Shield Bash, and I might use Dragon's Charge or Disarm, depending on what comp I'm playing. But I really do like Oppressor because at the beginning of each match, you figure out, especially in solo shuffle, alright, who are we targeting? So you target, let's say we're targeting the red. So you put your Oppressor on them, you taunt them, it puts that increased damage on them, so all your teammates are getting that increased damage on it. And you just keep stacking that Oppressor on there, keep stacking on that Oppressor. And with you hitting Revenge and Thunderclap, it's just going to keep stacking it. Shield Bash is really good against casters, Warlocks especially. It puts in a nice damage. However, if you're spending more time running and chasing them, then you're not able to use your Shield Slam, which kind of throws your Shield Bash out of the window. You can get rid of Shield Bash if you're playing heavy melee and use Bodyguard, which I do that sometimes too, especially since they improved Bodyguard, the radius is improved, to help mitigate some of that damage. But make sure when you're in that Bodyguard and you hit Bodyguard, you switch to defensive stance. So I always play battle stance unless it's getting really sketchy when I'm popping Bodyguard. So defensive stance, Bodyguard, can mitigate all that damage, and you're really not taking a lot of damage. And your damage, your DPS partners are not taking a lot of damage either. So you can mitigate all that and let them kind of pump it. Definitely get Thunder. Let's get out of this over here. Definitely get Thunderlord. Increase your radius by Demoralizing Shout. And again, each enemy hit by your Thunderclap, and you're already playing the Thunderclap build, reducing the cooldown, which helps Morale Killer, reduce the cooldown in Demoralizing Shout, and it now reduces damage enemies to all targets, not just you. So if you're Thunderclap, and you're reducing the cooldown of your Demoralizing Shout, and you can keep pressing Demoralizing Shout, so they're doing reduced damage to all your teammates, and especially if you got Bodyguard playing on there. So you're mitigating and you're taking all that damage and letting your DPS kind of roam free and do some smashing. Alright, Schlitt's talents, like I said, you had a few kind of that you can move around. Let's go into what you want to, what stats you want to get into. So, Haste and Mastery is what you want to really stack in. Mastery is really good for all your blocking, but Haste is your speed, so your Revenge speed, your Shield Slam speed, all your cooldowns, your Thunderclap, everything. So you really want to be stacking Mastery and Haste. It used to be Critical Strike. I used to have like 30% Critical Strike. So, but again, the meta changed. They nerfed the Critical Strike, so you really want to be stacking Mastery and Haste. As far as a set bonus, get the set bonus. It's an okay set bonus, but it's better than not having it. Again, with the gear outside of the set bonus, Mastery and Haste. So on rotation for Prop Warrior is really simple. Depending on what you're doing and who you're fighting, you want to start off with the charge, and Thunderclap, and then start Shield Strike, Shield Slam, Revenge, Thunderstrike. If you're focusing one player, make sure your Oppressor's on there, and then you can pop your cooldowns, which puts up some big numbers in that little window, which is good. So every time you hit your Thunderclap, you're applying bleeds. Here's my Oppressor doing a Focus Assault. So every time I'm hitting it, it's just getting redone. And so that's pretty much it. It's a pretty simple rotation depending on what you're facing. I always make sure that there's a shield block up because you have a crap ton of rage. Rage generation is amazing. So even with you dumping your rage into Revenge, your rage generation is great. So make sure you have a shield block up. Make sure your spell reflections on lock, especially if you're fighting casters. And I always make sure that I have a Ignore Pain up. Especially even if I'm not getting hit, if I'm not getting focused, which you in arenas and solo shuffle and stuff like that, you're not going to be targeted. However, there's a lot of cleave specs out there, and you put your Ignore Pain, that's one less thing your healer has to worry about. Make sure you keep your impending victory for oh shit moments. Intimidating Shout is a must, and of course your Stormbolt is a must. So it's a pretty simple rotation. It's just trying to get the hang of it, the feel of it. You're going to have to play match after match after match. And playing solo shuffle is miles different than playing Battlegrounds. Completely different. So the way you play in Battlegrounds is not going to be the way you play in solo shuffle. So just pick one and start going match after match after match and trying to learn that rotation and learn that routine. That's pretty much it, guys. If you have any more questions, just holler at me. Y'all keep climbing.